Ah, we have a chance to have an interview with Seamstress Weekly. Here is my credentials. Is this an advert or an explanation or a New Year's card or even a Christmas card? Is that official uniform worn with intention? You would be the kind of one that would pay attention to the gloves instead of the arms. It's a classic like this one. Oh, sorry, I don't do spades. I try not to use force. So, are you afraid of catwalking? Sorry, a pair of ducks can just make one forget what path one is on. You know, in high school we had this temp teacher and the first row student was holding their phone up. And oh brother, the camera click went off. She had to chastise them, but it seemed that the parties directly involved were enjoying it, apart from statutory being required to keep up standards. You know, when you take a picture, it has a high danger of going on the internet. The thing that has data cables going to faraway places, and like charge cables going up and down. You don't have to be particularly informed that the net is vast. And does this relate to anything? Do you think that the same thing can be both gentlemanly and renownedly French? Oh, this question is probably to the point of ennui. Funny thing that ennui is one of the few words that I know in written French. Aren't you interested in being a French teacher? What kind of French teacher has that property? Your own publishing company publishing a version of Wonderful World and My Flickering were personally quite touching to me. The green trees don't treat the same when you are old. You don't have to be Pythagoras teaching how to play with Shin and Gosh on Rupert to see how arguments about red, hair, cheek or nose are interesting. It can be worth it to get an appointment with a spelunker so that you are not missing any gems. Here's a system that I made, because it would be hypocritical to be complaining about standards if you don't create and maintain them. This is not an advert for Native Legion, in case you are wondering. Quite elementary. I was never good at trash talk. I only know the good boy versions. And what are the good girl versions? There was this one quite famous one. It's not the size of your audience, but how much you move them. It can't be that famous if I don't know it. Well, if I say it's not how wide you spread, but how deep you go. Does that ring a bell? Still nothing. It's apart, not apart. You might be projecting a little bit. It being a setup would be a good cover for it not being a setup. I thought that you wanted it for museum for safekeeping and not for display. I walked in when they were talking about willingness to take a no, and I gave them this. And there was nothing more objectionable going on, as this is what dogs crave. And they shut me up. It's their loss that they don't get to see in detail what this mind has traveled up. Splash flaps have a bad reputation in some places. Oh, I found places where they are laughing in Finnish, German, French about thrust exercises and pulp. Do you mind? Oh, I mind so much that I have to wisp about the conspiracy theory how Finland is just a cat kennel. You have such a strange relationship to stable delivery. Oh, really? Talk it is different from actual deliverables. Oh, I make deliveries like these, and I even have one Christmas card that is a bit late. It's leather. Is that a New Year's envelope? Yes, it is. I even made a Vaselier Christmas card, but I have trouble delivering it. Are you expecting people to actually send you Christmas cards back? They cost money, you know, and you could just call or go face to face. They are so environmentally conscious now that you would be expected to reuse the cards. You could restamp a card with a more custom stamp and even have layered theming. Just because you want to write hilarious literature doesn't mean that it's going to be accomplished. Oh, I'm so going to show you how to put a nice shape to your mouth. Draw the beans. What kind of game are you playing? I have this party that is suspected to be mythically active because they have what others might call twins. There's this game where you explain a word and you get more points the less people get your explanation, unless nobody gets it, and then you get minus points. That game is significantly more challenging when you don't know who all got it. I got this toy from a friend that since died to pancreatic cancer. I introduced them to Super Smash Bros. Since then, people have made such titles as The Streets Will Flow, which modifies how the few fighting games that try to be less gritty is perceived. One could argue that being able to separate violence in fiction and fact is different, but unrealistic expectations and consequences could lead to not being able to call out imminent and stochastic terrorism when encountered in real life. Oi! Car crash princess! How is the operating system for veteran care on the bureaucracy side? Is it comparable to overriding the UN Security Council? If you think using women for support infrastructure is too authoritarian, then why don't you accept men to be comfort men for veterans when you can't pay them in zinc? When I get a full metal jacket wanting to blow my brain in the toilet, I get reminded of the pizza ad of enjoyment continues. That reminds me to keep the pineapple on. Oh no, somebody's having a slightly different kind of social system across the globe. Existential threat. Are we the World Security Organization? Or are we the pivotal aggressors? Maybe Charlie should surf some more. So we were discussing Mexican standoffs quite recently, and we did make a Baroque kind of one night ultimate werewolf cards, and then there is the kind of role that wants to make a draw, and we were thinking about Mexican standoff situations, and then we thought that one way you could make a draw is that if you throw a projectile and then while it lands you swipe. This is quite the way that you could get. Otherwise, if you get melee, then it immediately kills the persons, but projectiles on flight don't follow the same rules on that. And I'm like, that's so natural, a ballsy armor. I'm trying to explain to people how literally you can be your own boss. And then I'm like, TIE fighters can shoot with both orientations. Having all the kinds of connections. The scheme where the library borrows out bicycles is quite good. Making camels go through the needle's eye, it just makes sense. There could be modest proposals for people to see the way. The unnatural theories can get quite weird, but Kardastic theories are quite questionable etiquette, and the truck does insist moment is going to be interesting, although things probably can't go on without straightening things out. I guess that's what lining up the needles goes for. The antitrust agent is here. How can we go independent? In 205, I read a cool doujin. Go get my towel. What do you mean? The method acting strategies. How they know that they have come to the right phase? O crossed, the thirst can be quite powerful a force. Epistemologists and theologists are about knowing God, but the non-theists can be touched by his meaty baldness. Hearing sensei paper makes one seriously consider Gladdy Sisters, the tales for tiny people. I have been struggling going maximint on how to approve the production line without ruining the confidentiality of it. If I knew of the material, I would have slurped harder. Writers of encouragement on a separate layer to respect early birds. Skipping the paper handshake for now, but cashing out a mask at least gives a new aesthetic. Well, thanks for the interview, the chance of giving the interview. I'm going to need to clean up, solidify, recompensate and collect. If you need more communication, you need to establish it. Passive monitorings might be going down and I'm not too good at disconnecting. There's one big thing that I am going to take, and might seem like, or I have the role where I'm playing for a prize, where it's important that I'm not really. Some will need to fool and some not. It might be fooling myself. If there's one step where I feared my life that I do not forget and don't currently forget, it's the crumpled arrow check.